started.
Wow. And then you have a child, and now it's really, what am I going to feed my baby? How am I going to instill this into my child, right?
So even before my son, before I had our youngest here,
Mhm.
I had started teaching, but it wasn't really focused on children's food because that wasn't my hen house. It was more adults, like, no, don't eat this, don't that, that. I was doing all these little workshops,
Mhm.
and folks would come to my home, our apartment, that I just follow the onion. And I would use this bring them to
I love it.
workshop because my mother, the one thing that my mother had told me, that onion, it doesn't matter whether you have money or not. When you cook with onion, your food would smell good, it would taste good. So onion, it's like when you saute onion, people are like, oh, you're looking for Agatha. Follow, just follow the onion. So that was that. And when I was pregnant, this is when I started focusing, and I went to the grocery store looking for baby food, preparing, because at this point I am an executive at Agilices. I'm on the road all the time.
Mhm.
So it's not like I can be at home
Right. So now
creating
you're in this
food.
busy work,
Yes,
work, work, work,
I'm
work
busy. So
lifestyle.
many you know, full circle moments. But I'm like, let me just prepare. Let me go and see what's out there so I know what my baby is going to eat. And I went to the store. For the first time, I really started looking into baby food. I'm like, no, this, there is no way this can be right, that I'm seeing baby food. So at this point, I'm 6 months pregnant. And I'm
Mhm.
thinking, I picked the first, because of course I would look for organic. Now, which is interesting, 19 years later, it's like almost all baby food is organic, but that's a different
Exactly.
topic.
Mhm.
So I picked the organic, and this was 2003.
Okay.
This is 2003. And I'm looking at it. The expiration date that was on that can of peas that I had in my hand said 2006.
Ooh.
Just think about this. I'm pregnant. It might be 6 months pregnant. I am in the store. There is food in the store that's been cooked for my unborn child. That seared me in such a profound way. To cut a long story short, initially I found a company out in California
Mhm.
that was making fresh baby food. And I'm like, they weren't in stores. You would have to order directly and they will ship to you.
Mhm.
So I'm like, at least I have this company that I'm going to use. And I don't know, it might be I ordered from them once or so and they had gone out because the shipping, and I think that's what took them out of market,
With so
because
much.
it was 200 and something dollars to ship a little.
Ooh.
And I'm like, but from then I just became this advocate and I started teaching. I would go to hospitals. I remember the first time I went to a local, I think that was called 14 Regional Hospital. That particular hospital was closer to my job where I worked. So that's how I knew it. When I went there and I told them that I want to teach a workshop, they're like,
Mhm.
oh, what's your brand? And this, I said, I don't have a brand. I'm just a mom.
Mm.
They were shocked. That little free workshop that I started doing grew to 45,000 moms. And that
Wow.
was before Facebook became a thing. Remember, there used to be something called MySpace, or
Yes.
there was MySpace, and then there was Meetup something. There was
Uh-huh.
something Meetup that we would do, and that's how we grew. And I remember my first interview. It was a mom who used to come to my workshops, who reached out to the local newspaper so they would write about what I was doing in the community. I was trying to change lives. Because at the end of the day, truly, if I'm healthy, if my home is healthy and my community is not, then we're not healthy. You're
Right.
only as strong, you're only as healthy as your community. And that's something that I wish that we do more of, because we live in such a transactional
Oh,
society,
absolutely.
you know. Yeah. But something I
Absolutely.
remember that I wanted, just in case we forgot, the opportunity that I had to tell my mom why I wanted to be a cook. When in 2003, we are in Jamaica, my whole family, and my parents came from Cameroon, so we're there. We'd rented a villa endless summer. It was such a beautiful experience. And
Wow.
everybody, it might be at that villa, we were 30 of us family members, my husband's side, my parents, a lot of our friends. And I remember pulling my mom at the side. At this point, I still, there was no Yummy Spoonfuls. Remember, this was 2003.
Mm-hmm.
I told my mom, I said, look, this is why I wanted to be a cook. And she's like, why? I said, because food makes everybody happy. It was the one thing that I saw, that regardless of how, whether somebody died, somebody had a baby, regardless of what was happening, food would always make people come together
Yeah.
with a smile. And my mom was shocked. And then 3 years later, I left corporate America
Ooh.
to fully go into food 100%. That was 2006. Yeah.
Wow. And never turned back, huh?
Not yet.
So as you're, so during this time, people were probably asking you, do you have a brand? Are you going to make your own company? I'm sure that you were getting that as you were teaching the moms, right? And so you slowly are going in that direction.
No, I
Um,
wish it was slowly.
okay.
So I would teach these workshops on weekends, sometimes twice a month. It might be sometimes once. And what we would do, we would come together and I would do hands-on, like literally teach them how to
Nice.
make food. What I was noticing, there were a couple of moms that it's like every workshop they would show up.
Mhm.
So this particular mom, I asked her, I'm like, we've made butternut squash and peas. You've been at every workshop. Like, what's the deal? It just like I want to help, but I want to understand because you keep coming back for these classes. And
When
she
you should
looked at
be
me,
ready doing your own thing by now,
well, she
huh?
looked at me and she's like, Agatha, I'm telling you, my son knows when I cook it or when you cook it. Because remember, when we do the workshop, people would go with their own food. We would make a big batch and then share it. That was the whole thing. And it hit me that the convenience is what a lot of them were looking for. Like they
Wow.
wanted to feed their babies
Mhm.
healthy food, but they don't just have the bandwidth to do it.
So that was
I
part of
didn't
the
really,
aha moment.
yes, but still, it wasn't something because I had a really good job that I had worked so hard to get to that I was making like serious money.
Mhm.
I didn't want to do this. One day we are at home and it was raining we had that workshop at my home. And it was funny because I couldn't bring so many people in my home at once. So we had communities that somebody, it might be two people who come from a particular community, and then they would take, when we cook, they would take food back to the other people, because I can only, might be 20, 25 people at one time. Mm-hmm. And my husband was home. In our subdivision there, it was just 6 homes. And it's one of those subdivisions that when you come in, how you come in is how you're going to go out. Mm-hmm. And just cars just kept. And my husband was like, whatever this is, needs to stop. Oh. We are Black folks here. This looks to me almost like a drug thing going on. It's just way too many cars. You don't want us to get in trouble, baby, we can't. And I was like, you know what? Let me see. It might be I can do this. This conversation was just towards, I want to say it might be June.
Okay.
And so I reached out to the SBA. I didn't know anything about starting a business. They're like, oh, you have to register this, you have to do. Mm-hmm. September 5th, I quit my job.
Wow. Yes. So there wasn't a gradual work it, build it, no. Work it, build
because
it.
I knew I did an interview once with the what's it called? Side Hustle. And I remember Side Hustle Pro, that's that podcast. And I remember this conversation. She was just like, it wasn't like a side thing. I said, no, I know myself. Mm-hmm. To the job I had, the money I was making, to get something on the side that I just want to hustle and try, that I know the beginning, because that's what they told me at the SBA. Like, if you love this, it'll work. But if you don't love it, it's starting a business is hard. Right. I just knew that I would leave it just to do the thing that was easy. So I asked my husband, I'm like, I'm going to leave a steady paycheck and all this jazz. Is this something you want me to commit to? He's like, yeah, at least give it 3 years. Let's see how it works. Right. And that's how Yummy Spoonfuls.
Nice. Wow. And that support is awesome, because, as you know, this is not an easy journey, right? So now you're getting started and it looks great now. You've got, you're in Walmart, all these stores, but let's talk about some of the learnings that you learned along the way.
Oh my goodness. There are many learnings, a lot. And as a Black person with an accent, which makes me double Black, it was an interesting journey to find funding. Like I was able, I remember when I went to present to Whole Foods Market. At that time, Whole Foods Market was regional. It's a bit different what it is today. I remember fasting for 9 days, praying that this would work. Looked for a lady, Kimberly, out in Chicago to help me do a marketing plan and a presentation. And I made samples. I walked into the original office, which is in Brazelton, where it's like an hour, 30 minutes from the city. Okay. And I had the sample, I had my computer, I was ready. The lady, at this point, I haven't even brought out anything. The lady who was the director or something of distribution at the time was a mother. She had an 8-month-old. I didn't know that, but I gave her carrots, sweet potato, and broccoli, I'll never forget, to try. And she just took a little spoon and she took on she was screaming, and somebody walked in who happened to be the vice president of sales. And it's like, oh, what's going on? She's like, try this. She gave him a spoon and he tasted it. It's like, oh, is this Italian ice? It tastes so good because it
Wow.
was cold. It was refreshing. She's like, no, it's fresh, organic baby food. That's how I got into Whole Foods. I'm telling you, I didn't even take my computer out. There was no presentation. That's how Yummy Spoonfuls got into Whole Foods. When they did place their first order, because we started with the 7 stores in Georgia that week. And my husband, myself, we had one lady that was helping us. We were renting a kitchen that we would come cook after they were done, because you can't make.
There's no co-packer at the time. You were the co-packer.
No. And you cannot make commercial food at home. So I remember how long it took us to make the food for that first order. And we put it in stores, went and delivered. 2 days later, calls were coming in that we sold out. The first store called, 21 cases of food. They completely sold out. And I started bawling. I was crying so hard. Because
That's the blessing and the curse in a sense, huh?
Yes. Like, how are we going to make the food? We're doing everything from scratch. We had a mixer. We invested, I can't remember the name, but there was this blender that my husband researched and found. It was like $2,500 at the time. That could take, you could blend like 6 pounds at once. But just think how many times we had to churn. We had the cash flow. We had all the right things. We've gotten into Whole Foods. They've sent us to the regions. We're in Dean and DeLuca. We were selling off the chain on Amazon. It doesn't matter. When I send paperwork to banks, it looks fantastic until I show up and I'm all of this.
Wow.
So from 2009, because that's when I really actively, from 2006 to 2009, it was just, we could really manage. Like, we brought in more staff, we're doing it, we have the flow. 2009, we got on CNN, and two things happened in 2009. We won for best organic baby food out of all 12 leading brands in the United States.
Nice.
And we got on CNN. And we just couldn't. My little hands, no matter how big my heart was, how much I wanted to do this, we couldn't make it. Then we couldn't get funding. That's how. And people will say this all the time, like, oh my gosh, that you can get funding, yes, even for you, even when you're Black. And I'm like, I'm not sure who you're talking to.
Exactly.
I have walked this path. It is not close to being easy. And we will get people. I looked at all different avenues. We had people who want to come and invest, but then they want to take 80% of your company. And it's interesting out there. Someday I'll write a book for this journey, because some I talk about and some I don't, but I try to share so people can, in whatever journey that you are, you have to really be thinking through some of these steps.
Right.
Because you would think that, oh, when you get into Whole Foods, it will be easy. Or when you get into this, it's never so easy.